All right, good morning.
Good morning and welcome for another installment of Plugged In. We want to welcome everybody on behalf of the board. I welcome each one of these fabulous gentlemen that are on here today to talk about economic development. As always, thank you AT&T for being our sponsor for the Plugged In series. And at this time, I'm going to change it over a little bit this time to Michelle Bundren to kick us off. So, Michelle?
Good morning, everyone. And we're going to just start and get right into our conversation today. We're going to kick it off with Chris Wooldridge this morning. He is the director of Murray State University's Center for Economic and Entrepreneurial Development. So, Chris, we're going to turn it over to you to share with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Jeanette, and thank you, everyone joining this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning, and it's a bright, sunny day here in West Kentucky, and we're happy for it. I wanted to just mention a thank you to all of you who have worked so hard in the region to support our small businesses, support our economic development offices, and the efforts throughout the region to deal with the pandemic. There have been so many challenges and so many opportunities. And so all the folks that are on this call, whether you're speaking today or whether you're listening, pat yourselves on the back. Thank you for the good work you've done. We're coming into the end of 2020, so hopefully it won't be, it'll end and we'll be able to move on. So I'm sorry my phone is muting. All right, so with that, thank you, Michelle. As she said, my name is Chris Wooldridge. I'm the director of the Center for Economic and Entrepreneurial Development. And what our center here is an outreach program out of the Byron Fine College of Business here at Murray State. Real quickly, what our center does is provide consulting and training services to startup, pre-ventures, existing businesses and industries within our regional neighborhood. To really provide resources for growth. Growth is probably something that's been a little bit of a challenge, at least on the entrepreneurial side and on the small business side, given the challenges that we've had. But I am happy to say that we have businesses that continue to grow. People still need products and services. And so while the situation and the events have changed probably drastically compared to where we thought they would be this time last year for the coming year, people still need products and services. And so finding out how to deliver those products and services is some of the key to being successful and really getting through this situation. The center here has worked with so many businesses through this pandemic, and really some of the things that we've seen are what I want to share with you. The ebb and flow of the situation is probably not news to any of you. How the situation from lockdowns to restrictions to easing of restrictions and the tightening of restrictions, all of those make it very difficult for businesses, as many of you know, to really kind of figure out how to price and how to hire, how many people to keep on staff. And so the two challenges that we have seen through the center and the work that we're doing here is kind of sort of that. It's managing the cash flow. How much money do I need to keep the number of people that I need to have available to deliver the products and services that I can deliver during this time? And as this pandemic began back in March and April, Michelle and many of us reached out to the community with some ideas on how to handle that, how to address that, how to do cash flow projections, how to think about where does cash come from for my business, from reserves or from sales or from other programs that might be available. And we're still kind of into that. We've gone from lockdowns to, especially for our restaurants, where we've gone through 33% capacity, which for some folks doesn't mean a whole lot of folks in their store, to 50% capacity. We've seen retail shops that have gone from open showrooms to selling on sidewalks to being online. And now we're kind of back to somewhere in between of that. And really it's almost week to week looking at how we manage cash flow. But that's probably the most important thing right now, is trying to continue to update those projections on how much cash you need to maintain your viability, and really making reasonable projections for yourself, not what looks like out 6 months as much as what looks tomorrow. What's the next week look like? What's the next couple of weeks look like? And then of course, traffic flow. Whether it's online or in the store, how do I get people in? How do I get people buying my products and services? And again, when we are shut down or we're limited to the number of folks we can have in a store, it becomes very difficult. So those are kind of the couple of things that we have seen. Probably the top two things, outside of just generally, I need money to operate. I need working capital. And so what I want to mention is that there are a couple of programs that have been the latest to hit the radar screen. Of course, we started pushing out a lot of information from the center right after the pandemic came, and then as we got updates, we pushed that out. Recently, we've had a couple of developments that may be interested for our region. One is the COVID-19 Business Relief Working Capital Loan Program offered through the Purchase Area Development District. If you're not familiar with this program, I would encourage you to reach out to Mike Maxwell at PAD and get some information about that. Very quickly, these are loans that are used to meet working capital needs on a short-term basis, roughly 6 months, and can be used for such things as payroll, rent, utilities, supplies, inventory management, and in some cases payments to suppliers. The loans range from $5,000 to $25,000. That's $5,000 to $25,000, and could be up to 60 months. The PAD also has other loan programs that may be of interest. The 504 SBA program, which has been around a very long time and continues. We see that as an in-demand loan product even through the pandemic. But I would reach out to the PAD. They have a tremendous number of programs that have been very tremendous in helping our region get through this situation. The second one that actually came out yesterday was the Food and Beverage Relief Fund that came out of Frankfurt. We pushed that out, and I know a lot of folks were emailing that back and forth, so I saw a lot of emails flying. But I know that the volume for those applicant funds were pretty heavy, and we've been working with some clients as of yesterday and again this morning on getting those applications in for those funds. And those funds are generally up to $10,000 for an eligible location, up to $20,000 for a business entity. I won't take up a tremendous amount of time going through all the guidelines, but I would encourage you. Michelle has pushed those out. I don't know if they're available on your website yet or not, but I know Michelle has pushed those out in the newsletter that went out yesterday. So be sure and catch those guidelines if you feel that that's a good fit for you. Again, that's for the food and beverage industry. And the use of those funds are fairly wide. Very quickly, mortgage and rent, salaries for employers or contractors, business supplies, inventory, utility payments, some general working capital needs for those funds that they can meet. So those are probably two of the latest programs that we've seen. And so with that, I think I'm just going to kind of stop talking and see what questions might be out there, and kick it back to you, Michelle.
Thank you so much for sharing those. And yes, we have shared a lot of those opportunities with our members for them to take advantage of that. It's also something we're advocating for as additional aid for our businesses, both at the state and federal level. We know that they need assistance more than ever. And, you know, there is talk of another round of PPP, maybe coming soon from the federal government. So we will follow that and are in contact with our legislators on those issues as well. So really appreciate your time, Chris. And do you have something else you want to add?
No, I would just encourage you to make sure that you stay in contact with your lenders, stay in contact with your banks, make sure that they understand the situation that you're in and that they're not wondering or guessing. Make sure that you're talking to anyone that is providing you with that debt financing. They're going to be able to at least give you advice, and their understanding your situation is going to help them help you. So I would just make sure that you're staying in contact with your bank and other lenders to keep them apprised of how things are going for you.
Chris, before you have to leave this morning, how can people get in contact with you if they have additional questions?
Absolutely. So please feel free to give me a call at 270-809-2495, or you can email me at cwooldridge@murraystate.edu.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate your time this morning. I know you have a busy schedule, and I know you have to hop off here, so we really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Pleasure to be here with you.
Well, this webinar wouldn't be possible without our sponsor today, so I want to give a quick plug to AT&T. Really appreciate them investing in our Plugged In series. We have here this morning Hank with us from Louisville, and I wanted him to just share a little bit with us this morning about what's going on there.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Chris's presentation just now really illustrated the unique year, to say the least, that we have all had as businesses and as people. It's been an extraordinary time for AT&T, just as it has for Murray and for the whole planet, basically, at this point. Through that, we've continued to invest. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars in the last several years all over the state and upgrading our network. And in Callaway County, that is equated to a new cell tower activated earlier this year, and also residential fiber in selected neighborhoods around the county. We know there's still a great deal to do, both in terms of pandemic relief and network expansion, but we're committed to doing what we can, staying the course, continuing to invest and innovate, look for the new technologies to help address the digital inclusion issues that were certainly prevalent before, but are very much top of mind for many Kentuckians and many Americans right now. So delighted to partner with you and your chamber, continue to support the Murray Chamber. I'm sorry we won't see each other in Frankfurt as we often do, but better days will come. And hopefully 2021 will be better for Kentucky's business community and for all of us personally as well. Thank you for letting us be part of today.
Thank you, Hank. And I know that AT&T has some new innovative products. And, I know we talked a lot in Frankfurt in February about your first responder technology and some new things like that for local government. So we're happy to learn more about that as well. So we really appreciate you this morning. Now,
well, feel free to, for everybody, I was just going to say, feel free, anybody down there, to stop by our wonderful retail store there near the university. They can answer any of your questions about our products in the area.
Thank you. And now we will move on to hear from our local economic development corporation. We have here with us this morning President Mark Manning and Vice President Brad Davis to share about what's been going on locally here in Callaway County in terms of economic development. So I'm going to pass it over to you gentlemen this morning.
All right, Michelle, thank you, first of all, in the chamber for doing such a marvelous job keeping the community connected. We very much appreciate the partnership that we have with you guys. Brad has put together a little PowerPoint, and then I'll just kind of interject from time to time when he lets me. But I'm just going to turn it over to Brad since he's the one that.
Okay, I'm going to, hopefully this will work. Oh.
Congratulations.
Well, there. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Great. Again, like Mark said, thank you all for having us today. And I'm sure probably most everybody on here has heard about the EDC, but just in case, the Economic Development Corporation, of course, is the, we primarily focus on recruiting new business and industry to the community and working with our existing employers, particularly the manufacturers and some of the larger businesses and stuff in terms of expansion projects or other issues that they may have or anything like that. So, we kind of went into 2020 preparing for a pretty significant recruitment campaign in terms of trying to recruit new industries and stuff and deal with kind of the the after effects of Briggs and Stratton closing. And of course, that didn't really happen, but just, because of the pandemic and everything. So in terms of new projects, we did have a couple. We had one that we're going to talk about a little bit that occurred, announced in December of last year. And then we've had a couple of other things, but it's been a different year for us. One of the things we did do that it was kind of new for us is we worked with the city in terms of their small business grant program that they had, I guess, back in May or June, where they had some funding for local businesses, and we assisted with that. But like I say, it's been a different year for us. But one of the things we did want to talk about was TPG Plastics. TPG announced in December that they were going to locate in what was the Murray West spec building. And so they announced, we got started on the build out of the facility. We were concerned, of course, in January or in February and March when everything started changing, that it was going to be difficult to get them done in time. But we went from basically a shell building to having a completed building with them in operation in 5.5 months, essentially. 6 months, really by June, they were in operation and everything. So we were just thrilled. We were thrilled with the contractors. They did everything right. They the protocols in place. And as far as I know, Mark, they didn't really have any issues COVID related or anything. So
no, it was really amazing. And I want to especially give some credit to Adams Construction. They did a phenomenal job. And of course, we try to keep things local when we can, but typically a project like that would take a year. And like you said, they finished in 5.5 months.
So it was great. And like I say, they're up. There's a picture of the facility. They're in production. They've got close to 50, I would say now.
The last I heard, Brad, they were at 54.
54. So they've got
adding people steadily. Almost all of the people that they've hired have been ex-Briggs employees, including upper management people. And the ones I've talked to that are from Murray are just ecstatic at the work environment there.
And also just to comment on their culture, like I said, they've hired a lot of Briggs employees. They've had several people, their original facility was in Illinois up near Chicago. They had several people move to Murray to help with the startup and to run this facility. And I think, Michelle, you've dealt with several of them. It's just how not only thrilled they are to be in Murray and how much they like the community, but how much they want to be a partner in the community and stuff. So they really have hit the ground running, not only on the production end of it, but just getting involved in things. And just for those who, you might be able to kind of tell in the picture there, their primary product is gas cans and some other molded plastic pieces. But early on, when the pandemic hit, they got involved in making face shields and stuff, and were involved with the state of Kentucky and provided a large number of face shields and stuff to the state, to the hospital, and to some other groups and stuff. So they really have just hit the ground running. So
I'll just say really quick, I agree. I got the chance to tour the facility and meet a lot of their staff, and really impressed with them. And, a lot of them are from that Chicago area and just really like the feel of Murray, Kentucky. So good job for you guys and helping them come here, but I've been really impressed with them so far.
And like I say, they've hit the ground running. So it's kind of hard to tell with this picture because it's, but they're already working on an expansion project. They need to add on to the building already. Not sure the the time schedule on that, but they've started the dirt work and stuff on that. So that project's just gone better, I guess, than we've ever could have expected, right, Mark?
It has, and I'll be honest with you, Brad. It's we've done bigger projects, we've done smaller projects, but this is kind of in our wheelhouse. We need to diversify so that we don't have another situation where we lose so many employees at one time with a Briggs and Stratton. And this is what we're trying to do: is bring in headquarters, family-owned companies when possible, because they hire more professional people and they're more likely to stay here for a long time.
I think so. And like I say, they're already working on an expansion. We've got hopefully another potential expansion that'll be announced in the next couple of months. So like I say, even though things are different this year, we are still seeing some positive news. Oops, I don't know what I did.
Brad, if I might, I'd say the most positive news that we have is that we don't have any great negative news as a result of the COVID.
True. Yeah, most of our, I mean, with a few little blips, most of the manufacturers and stuff have been able to keep producing and keep going. And just a kind of a rendering of our industrial park. We still have about 40 acres in the back that we'll be marketing and stuff. So that's kind of what we're getting ready to focus on for 2021 is filling out the industrial park and stuff. And of course, we still have the fallout from Briggs and Stratton closing. They're, they've sold now. We've had minimal contact, I guess, with the people that have bought Briggs and Stratton. So
that's an understatement, Brad. We've done everything we know to do to reach out to the new company with really no response whatsoever. We'd like to know what they plan, if they have plans for the facility. Do they plan on letting us try to market it? Is it for sale? Is it going to sit there? We don't know. And the building, has tremendous challenges. It's not modern, and it's not terribly efficient. Hopefully there's somebody out there that could use it.
But like Mark said, yeah, we get lots of questions about the building, but we don't really have any idea what's going to happen with it at this point in time. So this was actually a postcard that we had done prior to, well, right at the beginning of last year or this year, and we had started sending out, and we're probably going to start kind of marketing, because for 2021, again, the focus is on the workforce, making sure that everybody from Briggs has found a quality job and working towards attracting some companies that can use their skills. And we think there are a lot out there, and hopefully as all the news about the vaccine and things and people start opening up again, we'll get some interest and stuff. We, like Mark and I always say, if we can get them here, we can get them. We can attract the company. It's a question of, we can get them to come visit. Murray sells itself. So, and we appreciate the time and, today. And, and Mark, you want to add anything here at the end?
The only thing I would add, Brad, and thank you for putting this together, is that I wanted to mention our Skillcraft training program that we just started as kind of a test, and it was incredibly successful and worked really well, where we put about 7 people through a plumbing program, because we do have a real shortage of skilled craft people in the community. And our goal is to expand that in the spring and have plumbing and a class for electrical. Funding for it is a bit of a challenge, but we're working on that. There's lots of programs around for training unfortunately, most of them have so many strings attached to them that they're not terribly useful. So we decided to go local, which I can't imagine where we got that catchphrase, but we're going to do our best to get it started back up in the spring and kind of make this something that can continue for a long time.
Thank you all. I am really thankful for that initiative. I know you just mentioned it, but really the key is investing in our local workforce and helping train more people to live and work here. And so if we can provide those skills and that training for an area that we see a huge need, like you mentioned, plumbing and electrician and other areas like that, you guys have really stepped up and taken the lead, and that's really important.
Thank you.
We have one question really quick for you guys from Dave Perlow. What is the cost per student for that program you just mentioned?
As the way we set it up for the first group was the EDC paid the instructors, and that's somewhere between 15 and 20,000. And then tuition was designed to cover the cost of materials and tools, because each student got a set of tools that they will be able to use from now on. And the tuition was about $4,000, but most of the tuition was scholarshiped by local companies. For example, Steele and Albritton had a couple of people in the program who were just day laborers, making whatever they, I don't know how much they were being paid, but after this program and they get certified, they'll be able to make really good money. I mean, a certified plumber can easily make $65,000, $70,000 a year, and that's kind of where we are right now. The goal is to scholarship as many people as possible, and so far we've been able to do that.
Michelle, real quick, I want to say thank you to both Mark and Brad. It's always good to hear a positive presentation in 2020. And so many people don't see exactly what all y'all have going on until you're able to do a platform like this. And we're so thankful that you've always been great support to us here at the Chamber. But thank you both so much for what you do for the community. And thanks for just a positive spin on things, especially when you're talking about economic development in 2020. But both of you, thank you so much, Brad, for that slide presentation, and Mark for what you've continued to do. But just thank you. I appreciate that today, especially.
Thank you.
Am I unmuted? Yeah. Well said. So we definitely appreciate you guys this morning. And if you have any other questions, just feel free to submit those in the chat and we'll get to those. But today we have a great opportunity to hear about a new program called Grow West that Michael Ramage is leading and taking the charge. And I'm going to just let him share about it. I'm really excited, but it's an initiative to really build partnerships in the region with universities and businesses, and to just accelerate some different things around technology. So I'm really excited to hear and for you to be introduced to this initiative this morning. So Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you. And before I get into this, let me echo what Mark, Brad, and Chris have shared about the importance of the Chamber. As you're going to hear my presentation, an important piece of this is building community. And it is so hard to build and keep community right now. And Michelle, you through the Chamber have done such a good job at that over the last year. It's a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge, just like the reason that we're having this session today. But thank you for all that you do to keep that community. As Michelle said, my name is Michael Ramage. I am the director of the Center for Computer and Information Technology at Murray State University. And a couple years ago, had the opportunity to get involved in entrepreneurship and innovation through the state. And this is a long story, that I want to condense down to just a short amount of time. So if you have questions on something in particular, I'm watching the chat and watching the questions. So please feel free to post that, and I'll make sure that I try to get to that. And if not, during my presentation, I'll follow up with you on it. But a couple years ago, then Governor Bevin asked the regions to think about entrepreneurship and innovation and how it can be done, or how it should be done in each of the regions. And while Michelle said I'm leading this, I'm certainly not the lead on this. It is truly a regional group that is leading this effort, and I'll show the members in a minute. But what we know is that in West Kentucky, entrepreneurship and innovation doesn't look the same as it does in Lexington or in Louisville. And for 20 years, it has been treated the same. So Chris Wooldridge and I, along with others in the region, got together and tried to decide, what does this look like? And what we know is that we had three key anchors in entrepreneurship and innovation that we wanted to build around. And I'm going to talk more about each of these in a minute. But obviously, Murray State, you heard from SEED in the Center for Economic and Entrepreneurial Development. You heard, well, there's two others that you're going to hear about: Sprocket, which is a nonprofit in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station, which is part of Madisonville, Hopkins County Economic Development over in Madisonville. And obviously, all three groups are very different, but kind of help to provide a little bit of leadership for different reasons in our different areas. Because if you go to Louisville or you go to Lexington and you are interested in creating a new technology, it's obvious where you go. It's not so obvious in rural Kentucky, in West Kentucky. So we started with that in mind, and I'll get into more details in just a second. But as I mentioned, there's a group of us that are really leading this charge. And myself, Chris Wooldridge, and Tamara Darnell from Murray State, Monica Belike and Suzanne Clinton from Sprocket in Paducah, and Ruth Ann Pageant, Ray Hagerman, and Melanie Tapp from Madisonville over at the Innovation Station. And so when we came together trying to figure out what we needed to do, there were really four overarching goals that we wanted to look at. First was to develop that culture. And that entrepreneurship culture and that related ecosystem, there's pockets of it through West Kentucky, but if we're going to grow entrepreneurship and grow innovation in our region, then we decided that we needed to figure out how to do that in a more focused way, so that it's not just a pocket here or there, that it's more of a regional community doing that. We wanted to provide regional coordination of those local efforts. Madisonville's doing stuff, Paducah's doing stuff, Murray's doing stuff, Hopkinsville's doing a little, Henderson was trying to do some. We're all at different places in that development, but none of us were big enough to do it on our own. Where you know, Louisville's a community of 1 million people, we're not. So how do we do that in West Kentucky? And we thought it was important to let each local community grow itself, but at the same time provide some coordination, so that maybe Madisonville can learn from Murray, and Murray can learn from Paducah, and Paducah can learn from Hopkinsville, and that we're working together to grow our region. Third was to foster growth and development of technology and innovation. So West Kentucky is home to some really cool technology companies, both traditional IT companies, managed service providers like DevSource. I saw Mike on the attendee list. Also Kingdom Trust or Hempwood, some tech companies that aren't necessarily your traditional tech companies, but are certainly tech and innovative companies. But we have those companies all across our region. And just like what Mark was just sharing about with having a training program for plumbers, we have a challenge of workforce. So we want to foster the growth and development of technology and innovation, but we also wanted to make sure that we provided provided ways to grow that workforce. And I'll, particularly since Hank's on the call with us right now, one of the important ways that we have done this over the last 3 years is we have an outreach event that we have each spring with high school students called Techmania. And over the last 3 years, even in 2020, we've had over 500 students that have come together for basically a computer technology field day. And it's not something that is easy to coordinate. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And there's a lot of folks that are on this call that have participated in that. And frankly, it wouldn't be possible without the support of AT&T to help sponsor that event, because it's something that we get to share some of these ideas with students and let them see what technology is all about. And then finally, if you have an idea, if you want to do something, if you want to grow a business, if you want to develop a technology innovation, we want to make sure that you have the entrepreneurial services, the support, and the counseling that you need to grow that business. And we do that through a variety of ways, but a really an important focus point of that is through Chris and the SBA offices as well, which Chris shared a little bit about earlier. One of the things that, as we started this 2 years ago. Well, what's happened in the last 2 years, we changed administrations. So we actually had to change and pivot a little bit in our efforts as well. And you can see the logos. We went from West Kentucky Rise to Grow West. If you've heard of West Kentucky Rise, it's the same thing as Grow West. We changed the name for a couple of reasons. But the important piece of trying to focus on that local entrepreneurial efforts is still the same. The importance of growing the culture and growing the ecosystem is still the same. So that I want to make sure I point that out, but it's really important, at least we believe, to really grow that ecosystem so that we can support the local efforts. We're not trying to take over any local efforts. And I'll share a few examples of things that have been going on. One is a makerspace in Madisonville that was funded through EDA. EDA funded about $1 million for Madisonville to build. It's called Movers and Makers. It just opened in November. Not a great time to have a grand opening, and it's provided a bit of a challenge. But these are a few pictures from different phases through their build out. But really, it is a place for those that have a business idea or have want to tinker with some tools that they can't afford to have the equipment on their own. Is a place for them to come and do that. It's really cool, just opening, but a neat thing. One of the other things that we do every Wednesday is we have Innovate and Caffeinate. Basically, through our Facebook pages, and I'll share those pages at the end, we share the stories of entrepreneurs. That is all that we're trying to do. What we have learned very specifically is that entrepreneurs like to hear from other entrepreneurs. How did you grow your business? What were some of the challenges that you had? What were some of the successes you had? What do you wish you had known before you started your business? All those types of things. We want to share those stories with each other for a couple of reasons. One, to help grow community. Two, help those entrepreneurs that are trying to figure out the next step. And three, just find a way for us to interact in these times. We actually, once we move past COVID, these will be in person. They were in person before COVID. They'll be in person after COVID, but for now they're virtual. So if you want to watch any of these, we share them on Facebook at 7:30 on Wednesday mornings, and we would certainly encourage you to join us. And one of the other things that I like is an event that we do called Tech on Tap. And actually last night we had Tech on Tap virtually. Normally it meets in person in Paducah at Dry Ground Brewery, hence the name Tech on Tap. But again, it's one of those opportunities for tech folks in the community to get together and just share different ideas on tech. Last night actually was perhaps one of my favorite. Murray native, Wes Spencer, he has worked for different businesses around Murray, left the region about 4 years ago. Actually, I guess he left about 3 years ago to go work for a startup, a technology startup. This is the exact type of business that we want to build the ecosystem and the environment to grow. But he went to work. He was the 5th person at this startup. It grew to, I think he said over 50 people, and they just sold for over $80 million about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. But it was big for a lot of reasons that they were able to do this. But last night he shared our story at Tech on Tap. We always take December off because of the holidays, but it's always the last Monday of the month. And in January, that happens to be the 25th. So you can watch our Facebook feeds and see when that's coming up. But all of these things that I'm sharing are ways for us to help grow the ecosystem. And let me end with this diagram. And I could spend another hour talking about this diagram, but this is the way that we're trying to think through entrepreneurship and innovation for West Kentucky, is that we need digital workforce, we need the digital community, but we also have new businesses, existing businesses, and we have some unique local qualities. And what we're trying to do is to take all of these pieces, to bring them together so that we can grow tech and innovation within our communities, within Murray, and help to grow businesses. We have folks like Mark and Brad that are trying to bring in new and existing new businesses, help existing businesses expand. That is extremely important. But we also want to try to grow our own businesses. And particularly, can we grow some tech and innovative type businesses? And we're doing that. Actually, Mark and Brad have been involved in several of those as well. And what this is trying to do is to work with our traditional economic developers, our chambers, our schools, higher education, and the folks, the tech community in our region, to build that ecosystem that can allow somebody to take an idea, to know where to go with it, to know how to grow it, to find the workforce to help grow the business, find the funding. Funding's always a challenge, particularly in rural Kentucky, and to grow that business to a point where they can have the experience that Wes Spencer has had, or many other companies have had as well, or to continue to grow it. We're excited about this, but let me say that while this process started about 2 years ago, we have some very fundamental work to do to get that ecosystem in place so that we can really flourish. And this is something where many of the folks that are on this webinar have participated, have been involved in a variety of ways. And we need your help. We need your support. And also, if your business has an idea that to expand to a new line of business, or you individually have an idea, let us know, and we can help you to foster that idea to a business plan and to continue to grow that as well. But let me make sure I finish with this slide. There are a number of ways to find us. Maybe the easiest is on Facebook, Grow West KY. If you search for that, you'll find our page. GrowWest.org is our website. It has all of these links on it as well. But this is an exciting program, and one that I think there's a lot of great opportunity for West Kentucky in this, and for Murray, Callaway County in particular, and something that you hopefully will be hearing more about over the coming months and years. Michelle, thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about Grow West. And again, I can go into a lot more detail if folks have questions or want to have a one-off call. I can do that as well. I'll leave the brief overview there unless there are any questions.
Michael, thank you for that presentation. And I would probably think that a lot of people on this webinar this morning maybe haven't heard of Grow West. So just us being able to connect people to what you're trying to do is just a great opportunity for people to get involved and to learn more about it. And, you know, what we're really talking about is diversifying our community and those workforce opportunities. You know, that's the key word, is opportunity. We want to give people opportunity to stay here, to retain people to not only Callaway County, but our region. And so I really appreciate your efforts. Last Plugged In, we had talked about workforce development. So really this is just piggybacking off of that. As you see, it's a pretty large thing to tackle. And you see a lot of different groups working together to get into the schools and to create opportunities for not only those who are in school, but those who maybe want a different career path. You know, we talked about Briggs. A lot of those people are now trying to find other things and, you know, education pieces, training them on new things and new skills. And we couldn't do that without our Economic Development Corporation with programs like yours, Michael, and Murray State is a huge, you know, part of our economy here in Murray and Callaway County. And so we appreciate them also supporting this as well.
And if I can add, let me add one last piece, and I should have mentioned this. As you can see in our logo, it says powered by KY Innovation. KY Innovation is the Office of Entrepreneurship within the Cabinet for Economic Development. So while this is a different arm of the Cabinet for Economic Development, it certainly works hand in hand with the other economic developers and the traditional economic development way. So it's one of those that, particularly at the state level, there's this big picture of trying to do just what you're saying, diversify both in our community and across the state as well.
You guys are good. You guys have kept it under an hour, but I just wanted to open up now for any final thoughts from anyone on the panel this morning. Anything that maybe sparked a thought that you'd like to share with our participants this morning.
Michelle, I just want to kind of visit what we talked about before in terms of what the chamber's doing and what you are doing, and Haley, I mean, because y'all are the face of the chamber. You're doing an amazing job, honestly, and the idea of keeping the community together is extremely important, and the chamber is at the top of the list in helping make that happen. And on a very personal level, and I know I speak for Brad as well, how much we appreciate and enjoy working with you personally. It's always very creative in terms of getting things out to the community and your marketing expertise. And I just can't tell you enough how much we appreciate both you and Haley.
Well, Michelle, this is Hank. I'd like to add my thanks as well. I have the privilege of working with a whole bunch of chambers around the state, and the Murray Chamber, it deserves its reputation as a real leader, and I salute you and your team for everything you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate those kind words. That means a lot to us. I was actually on a strategic planning session yesterday with pretty much all the chambers across Kentucky. And, you know, these are challenging times for all of us. And the support from the community means a lot. And, you know, we appreciate our members, and working with partners like you guys makes our jobs really enjoyable. So thank you so much for your kind words. We really appreciate that. We have a question for the panel from Terry Streeter. How are these economic development entities working with local and state government? So if anybody would like to answer that.
Brad, you want to answer that, or you want me to? Well, I guess Brad is gone. I'll be happy to answer it from our standpoint. We work very closely with a number of entities at the state, local, and federal levels. At the local level, the mayor and the judge executive both sit on the board of the EDC. So they are constantly aware of what we're doing and are constantly helpful to get things done. Any kind of incentives, whether they be local or state, have to go through the council and the fiscal court. So very close relationship and even friendships there. And then when it comes to the state, we work very, very closely with the Cabinet for Economic Development. They have a commissioner now, Jeff Taylor, who reaches out to us on a regular basis, which is a refreshing change from what we've seen in the past. And then another one of our massively important partners is TVA. TVA has a very robust economic development program, and they are involved in every project that we do. So our partners are essential, and we coordinate with them on a very regular basis.
Sorry, I'm trying to see if that answered the question. Michael, is any of your program have any governmental funding at all?
Yes. So the primary funding source, if you go back 20 years, there was the Innovation and Commercialization Centers, the ICCs across the state that receive funding through the Office of Entrepreneurship. This is the same state program that has been there for 20 years. And there's still some funding that comes from the Office of Entrepreneurship through the Cabinet for Economic Development. So there's certainly still that state aspect. What you're seeing, the activities that you're seeing, some of it's funded through the state. A lot of it is enabled by the state, but funded through local organizations, local efforts, or sponsors, as I mentioned, like AT&T. But I'll echo what Mark said. These efforts, whether it's the large economic development efforts or these local entrepreneurial type efforts, it's got to be a whole community approach. Computer nerds, tech folks expect different things in a community. The reason we have our Tech on Tap event is because technology folks like to hang out at a brewery. That's where they're comfortable. And these millennials, the younger tech workers, they're just they're different, and we want to make sure that we're building the culture that fits those that are coming up. And we can't just do that with higher ed. We can't just do that with a few nonprofits or entity organizations around the region. It takes the local government. It takes chambers. It takes existing businesses, existing tech workers, existing lender. I mean, it really is an entire community to do this to be successful. And frankly, there's very few economic development organizations that have been more successful than Murray Callaway over the last several years, and that's because of exactly what Mark described as that great working relationship.
I echo those words. Just the community partnerships we have here are key to our community success, and we have great partners like Mark and Brad and like you at Murray State, Michael and Chris, who was on the call earlier. Building those relationships is key to moving any initiative or community forward, and we're really proud to be a part of it. So we really appreciate you guys this morning. I know that everyone has a busy schedule, and I know everyone's hopefully getting ready for Christmas, and I'm definitely going to plug Shop Local one more time just to continue to go local. But just a really quick plug and kind of piggybacking off what you said, Michael, is creating the opportunities here locally and specifically for maybe tech people or people who want to work remotely, we have had the opportunity to partner with our local economic development corporation and with TVA to offer that remote work opportunity to maybe recent graduates of Murray State, a trailing spouse coming into our community, maybe who got a job at the hospital or Murray State or one of our manufacturing facilities. And that allows them to work remotely in different areas. I want to say there's over 50 different industries that there's jobs opportunities there, so that they can live in our community. A lot of people want to stay here, and so we're helping connect them, and it's just a part of that diversifying our workforce and the different opportunities they have to stay here. So we appreciate that. We talked about that this morning, diversifying through manufacturing, through our trade jobs, plumbing, electricians, through technology. And we've had these conversations on a local level with our local government. I know Mark and I and Brad have been a part of these conversations for the last couple of years. What are we doing to encourage entrepreneurship? What are we doing for this? And as you can see, a lot of groups are working together to help tackle these issues. And so we really appreciate you guys again this morning for being here. Hopefully the Chamber helped educate and connect those on our webinar this morning with opportunities, or at least to know what's going on to help retain individuals in our community and help grow our community and our workforce. So with that, I'm going to close this morning unless we have any final thoughts, but really appreciate all of you for your support for our organization. And we look forward to the holiday season. I hope you guys all have a very Merry Christmas. So thank you for joining us this morning. And again, thank you, Hank, with AT&T.
Thank you, Michelle. Everyone stay safe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.